regulations. I presume most of you are aware of the clearing regulations. Who's not aware of the clearing regulations and how they work? Most people are. Anyway, the clearing a lot of land clearing in WA is controlled, supposedly, under the clearing regulations, and there are, which is done by the Department of Water and Environmental Regulation, and the decision maker is the Director General of the Department. It's not the EPA itself, but the process comes under the Environmental Protection Act. Anyway, Schedule 5, there it is, are the principles for clearing native vegetation. And these 10 principles guide the assessment. And the principles say native vegetation should not be cleared if, A, it comprises a high level of biodiversity. Well, that means pretty well most of the southwest of WA. B, it comprises the whole or part of or is necessary for the maintenance of a significant habitat for fauna. So we just heard about Carnaby's cockatoo, the black cockatoos, the ring-tailed possums and so forth. There's plenty of them. C, it includes or is necessary for the continued existence of threatened flora, so rare and endangered flora species. Flora. D, it comprises the whole or a part of or is necessary for the maintenance of a threatened ecological community. And on the Swan Coastal Plain, most of the Swan Coastal Plain is now threatened ecological communities, and there's the Banksia woodlands and the Tuart woodlands, and there's a whole lot of other threatened ecological communities that are listed by the state. Now, these threatened ecological communities, a lot of them are listed by the state government, and they're also listed under the Federal EPBC Act. Some of them at slightly different levels. So, there's a whole heap of them. E, native vegetation should not be cleared if it is significant as a remnant of native vegetation in an area that has been extensively cleared. So that's the Southwest hotspot. Southwest global hotspot is declared internationally for conservation priority because it is under threat. So it's full of endemics, but it's under threat, and there's not enough of it left. F, if it is growing in or associated with an environment associated with a watercourse or wetlands. G, the clearing of vegetation is likely to cause appreciable land degradation. We heard about some of that earlier. And obviously, if you're clearing next to a native vegetation area, you're going to get runoff, you're going to get change in nutrient export, you might get groundwater drawdown, and you get edge effects. H, the clearing is likely to have an impact on environmental values of an adjacent or nearby conservation area. I guess I've just said that. So the clearing, I, the clearing of the vegetation is likely to cause deterioration of the quality of surface or underground water. J, the clearing of the vegetation is likely to cause or exacerbate the incidence or intensity of flooding. Wake up, Western Australia, look what's happening over east. The more land you clear, the more incredible, flooding events you can get. And our eastern side of the coastal plain is mostly vegetated wetland. So roll on a big flood, a lot of that area on the eastern side of the plain is likely to flood. So the next slide shows the... is there another one or not?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, just the terms used, and that's on that sheet of paper that's been handed out. So I won't go through those. I think you're probably all familiar with those. But I would just draw your attention to these clearing regulations. Often there's a whole lot of them, and they're on the EPA, on the website under the EP Act. You can make submissions on them, but there's an awful lot of them. But anyway, very often the assessments are, and even proponents will say that that this proposal is at variance to principles A, B and D or whatever, and seriously at variance to maybe two of them and specify them, but they then still allow the clearing to go ahead by justifying it with offsets. But that actually doesn't sit with the principles of the Act, the precautionary principle, where and the mitigation hierarchy, whereby the first step is to avoid. In other words, if it's significant clearing, and according to the clearing principles, it shouldn't be cleared. So if it's at variance to one or more of the clearing principles, the clearing permit should not be granted. But unfortunately, that is not happening, and the clearing regulation system, unfortunately, has not travelled very well most of the time. Occasionally, they'll knock back the clearing applications, but not enough. And you can appeal against permits issued, but yeah. The other aspect which we heard a bit about earlier, there are exemptions for a clearing permit, and there are also things called purpose permits. So Main Roads has a purpose permit, which means if it's doing anything to roadworks, it can clear whatever the hell it likes. I mean, that's crazy. And yeah, so anyway, I draw your attention to some of the things on the Biodiversity WA 2022 issues and actions. And in terms of clearing, certainly we need, on page 4, we need to strengthen and enforce the clearing principles in the clearing regulations according to those matters.
I could probably find that for you on there.
So, in other words, as I said, enforce clearing regulations so that no clearing permits are granted if clearing is at variance to one or more clearing principles, and under the mitigation hierarchy, avoid, in other words, say no, prosecute and increase fines for unauthorised clearing, and there's a lot of that going on, people who are clearing under so-called exemptions. The government doesn't even know how much clearing is happening. So we increase the capacity of the department to investigate and prosecute, and we suggest that purpose permits should be removed, particularly in the southwest because it's overcleared, and it would be really good if the whole of the southwest of WA was declared an environmentally sensitive area. Anyway, so that's enough for me.
So I just, as you were talking there, Mary, I just put up on our website our campaign page, and then Mary was then talking from our issues and action paper that Mary and Phil Jennings developed.
And under number 3, there's stuff that according to the approved conservation advices for the federally listed Banksia woodlands and the Tuart woodlands, the conservation advice in both of those is protect the ecological community to prevent its further loss of extent and condition. That means no more clearing, surely. Anyway, that advice is not being heeded by the state government, unfortunately. Anyway,
so thank you.